There are mornings that begin like any other, but end with something none of us are ever prepared for. A rusted trap, a flock of hungry crows, and a small creature too weak to run, too young to understand what was happening. Clara Bennett was not a veterinarian, nor a hero. She was simply a woman living alone at the edge of the forest, making pottery, sipping cold tea, and still lighting the porch lantern every night, as if someone might come back. But that morning, as she crossed the rain-soaked dirt path to fetch clay, she didn't know that amidst the mud and the screaming crows, a pair of eyes would be watching her, trembling, bloodied, but not yet giving up. And in that very moment, when she bent down to lift a dying bobcat kitten from a trap, a journey began, one that no one could have predicted. A journey of survival, of instinct, and of a strange kind of affection between a human and the wild. In the damp mountain edges of Oregon, where March rain never feels like mere rain, but more like an endless, sad melody, something unfolded quietly, ruthlessly, and desperately. Clara Bennett was crouched beside a soaked clay pit at the forest's edge, her hands covered in mud, when an unusual sound made her pause. It wasn't raining. It wasn't the wind. It was crows. A dark circle, at least 5, maybe 6, had gathered around something in the water-stained underbrush. They shrieked, they hissed, their wings spiraled like omens of impending death. Clara squinted, brushed wet hair behind her ear, and walked toward the sound, her heart pounding for reasons she couldn't explain. And then she saw it. A tiny creature, a bobcat kitten, no more than 6 weeks old, caught in a trap by its hind leg. Its claws were bloodied, its body trembling from the cold. But that wasn't the worst part. Blood streamed from its ear, its face. One eye was swollen shut, its head tilted permanently to one side, and the crows were pecking at it, mercilessly, again and again. No sound, no struggle, only shallow breaths and a gaze, nearly extinguished. Clara screamed and rushed forward, waving her arms to scatter the angry crows that took off clumsily. She dropped to her knees, forgetting her boots were submerged in icy rainwater, and reached out with trembling hands toward the creature. The wounds were deep, the trap had cut into bone, and worst of all was the visible despair, even in a body no larger than a clenched fist. Another person might have walked away, might have said, "That's just nature." But Clara knew. There are moments when nature doesn't need a witness. It needs someone willing to step in, to lift, to save. Clara leaned down and whispered, barely breathing, "Oh, little one." One of the bobcat's legs was crushed in the rusted trap. The claw was cracked open. Blood oozed from the gaps in the bone. But what hurt Clara most was the way the kitten still tried to lift its head, wobbling, tilted far to one side, as if it too knew it couldn't afford to collapse. She had never seen eyes like that, one swollen shut to a slit, the other struggling to remain open, not accusing, not pleading, simply present. Around them, the world went on. A pickup truck slowed, a man stuck his head out and called, "You okay, ma'am?" Clara quickly turned her back, shielding the dying creature in her arms. "I'm fine, just a trash bag stuck in the bushes." In her car, Clara drove while calling the only veterinary clinic in the region. On the other end was a familiar, rough male voice, not without compassion. "Clara, is that you? What? Baby bobcat? Head trauma? Trap injury?" Dr. Jonah Price was silent for a few seconds, then spoke gently. "You know, cases like that rarely end well." "I know," Clara replied, eyes fixed on the towel-wrapped, shivering bobcat on the passenger seat. "But if I had left it, it would have died the cruelest way, and I couldn't live with that." Jonah sighed. "All right, bring it in. We'll do everything we can. But brace yourself, Clara. This may be the first and last time you see it open its eyes. When Clara arrived, Jonah was already waiting, lab coat on, gloves in place, his eyes both clinically sharp and wearied by too many broken hopes. Clara opened the box. Jonah leaned down, and the crease between his aging brows deepened. "My God," he murmured. "The fact that it's still alive is a miracle." Under the white lights, Max, the name Clara had randomly thought of while driving, looked worse than she'd imagined. His head tilted unnaturally, pupils uneven, throat bleeding, crow pecks scattered like needles of pity pierced through his fur. Jonah shook his head. Brain trauma, blood loss, respiratory distress, severe dehydration, and significantly underweight, likely abandoned or lost from his litter long ago. "Can you save him?" Jonah hesitated. "In this condition, I can't sedate him. Anesthesia would kill him. So that means we let him go," Clara whispered, her throat tightening. Jonah looked up, locking eyes with hers. "I didn't say that." He stood, removed his gloves, his voice softer. "We'll start with stabilizing his temperature, subcutaneous fluids, and broad-spectrum antibiotics. No promises, but if he survives the night, then maybe, just maybe, we'll have a chance." "We'll begin with the smallest things," Jonah repeated as he took off his gloves. "Gradual warming, fluids under the skin, broad-spectrum antibiotics. If this little guy makes it through tonight, then we talk again in the morning." He looked at her for a long moment, then gave a slight nod. "But that's a very big if, Clara." She said nothing. No argument. No need for more words. 3 hours later. Clara left the clinic with a small box. In it, Max lay still, wrapped in a thermal blanket, warmed only by the faintest breath of life. Next to the box was a bag of medication, syringes, IV needles, formula for orphan predators, a rescue kit she never imagined she'd ever need. Jonah gave his instructions again as he shut her trunk. "Call me, anytime, even in the middle of the night. And Clara," he paused, "try not to hope too much." The rain had stopped, but water still dripped steadily from the eaves of Clara's old wooden cabin as she pushed the door open. The warm yellow light spilled across shelves of unfired pottery. She walked straight into the empty room, the one that used to be a spare studio, now turned into a makeshift care room. She had prepared it in advance, a large plastic bin lined with soft towels, placed on a small heating pad. A tiny nest, no different from a bird's, offering one fragile life a chance. Max didn't move as he was transferred over. His body was limp like mud, his breath as faint as smoke. Clara sat beside the box, gently stroking his back, whispering, "You're safe now. Even if you don't understand, I still need to say it. For you, and for myself." The night crept by like a silent animal. Every 15 minutes, Clara checked his breathing. Twice, she administered subcutaneous fluids, drop by drop from a thin syringe piercing through his damp fur. Each time, she held her breath, afraid that even the slightest pain could stop that feeble heart. But Max was still there. No better, but not gone. By midnight, Clara forced herself to swallow a bite of a cold sandwich. It tasted bitter, but she knew she had to keep up her strength for someone who couldn't fight on their own. 2 a.m. Wind began to rustle through the pines outside the porch, like the sound of a distant ocean or someone singing a lonely lullaby. Clara pulled the armchair closer to the box, telling herself she'd just close her eyes for a moment. She didn't know when she fell asleep. Only that, when she woke up, the sky had lightened, The pale forest light filtered through the curtains like a thin blanket of life. She sprang up. Max! Her heart raced. She flipped the box lid open, fearing the worst, but he was still there. His delicate chest rose and fell gently, like butterfly wings. And then, something happened. One eye, the less injured one, was opening. Just a slit. A sliver of wild golden light peeked through. But when Clara slowly raised her hand, that eye followed. Not clearly, not with certainty, but it responded. It recognized. It lived. Max, Clara whispered, lips trembling, tears rising. She quickly grabbed the milk syringe, dropping one tiny bead of formula at the corner of his mouth. 1 second, 2, then a movement. He swallowed, just once. A motion so small that anyone else might have missed it. But for Clara, it was a miracle. A soft beam of gold pierced through the curtain, falling over Max like a weightless blanket. Clara sat still, breath held, watching Max's surviving eye open into a thin slit, slow, unfocused, but unmistakably tracking the motion of her hand. Not sharp, not alert, but alive. Max, she whispered, not daring to hope but unable to give up. She poured more formula into the needleless syringe and placed a single drop on the tip of his tongue. She waited. A moment of silence so intense it was suffocating. Then his throat moved. Just once. Weak, but enough to bring tears to Clara's eyes. One tiny swallow, enough to rebuild the whole world. She called Jonah immediately. He responded, she blurted, and he swallowed the milk. On the other end, the old veterinarian seemed stunned. Really, he actually swallowed. I saw it with my own eyes. Then don't move him. Keep everything exactly as I instructed. Fluids, antibiotics, and small amount of formula. If he keeps drinking, I'll come by after my afternoon rounds. That day passed like a fine mist. Clara documented every milliliter of milk, every time Max responded to light or sound. By late afternoon, he had consumed nearly 15 milliliters, a small number but far beyond anyone's expectations. The swelling around his eye had gone down slightly. His head was still tilted, but his gaze was sharper, like a tiny arrow trying to find its path again through the storm. At 7 p.m., Jonah arrived, his medical bag heavy in hand, his expression cautious. But the moment he saw Max, he paused. Almost normal, he murmured, placing a thermometer in Max's ear. Stable body temperature, better hydration, neurological, still shaky, but better than expected. Then he turned to Clara. Clara, he has a chance, not guaranteed, but a real chance. Much better than yesterday. 48 hours turned into a week, then 2, then 3. Max's recovery wasn't linear. Some days, he refused to eat, lying motionless, reacting only with the faintest breath. Some nights, Clara drove frantically to the clinic, terrified by minor seizures that made her think she'd lost the fight. But there were also days as bright as early spring sunshine. The day Max held his head steady for over 30 seconds. The day he pushed Clara's hand away while being wiped, a defiant pride of the wild kind. The day he stood, legs trembling, fell, and stood again. 3 weeks after Clara carried Max home from the rusted trap, she moved him to the back porch, where a large glass enclosure welcomed light and forest air. His fur was now dry and smooth, the distinctive black spots vivid against golden brown. The wounds had healed, only a few bald patches yet to regrow. His head still tilted slightly, sometimes throwing off his balance during pretend hunts. But his eyes, those amber eyes were now sharp as blades, always tracking every leaf fluttering past the cage. Jonah came by to check, standing still as he watched Max stalk a feather toy dangling from a string. Max leapt, awkward but powerful, and caught it like a young warrior in his first battle. Jonah sighed and shook his head, smiling faintly. "Clara, I've never seen a wild animal recover from such severe brain trauma. He's a miracle." Clara looked at Max, her heart aching and softened all at once. A part of her wanted to believe. The rest knew that every miracle comes with a price. An old worry knocked softly inside Clara's chest, like raindrops tapping the wooden eaves on a nameless afternoon. Max, now able to walk, to stalk, to hide his food in the corner of his enclosure. Where would he go? She whispered to Jonah during their latest checkup. He can't go back to the wild, can he?" They both knew the answer, even if neither wanted to say it. Max, for all his miraculous progress, could never survive in nature. The world of wild bobcats demanded perfection, flawless vision, flawless reflexes. And Max had the heart of a warrior, but a head permanently tilted by fate. "I've made the arrangements," Jonah said gently. "The conservation center near Portland. They have a special area for unreleasable predators. Not a zoo, a place that truly understands animals." Clara nodded. Her chest tightened as if someone had pulled a string straight from her heart. She had known, from the moment she held Max in her rain-soaked arms, that this goodbye was inevitable. But knowing didn't mean being ready. "When will they take him?" she asked, her voice steadier than her heart felt. "Next month. He needs to be stronger. They're preparing his space." Jonah placed a hand on her shoulder. Warm, steady. "You saved his life, Clara. Now it's time to give him a life worth living, even if it's not in the wild." The weeks that followed stretched like a cord between two poles. Love and letting go. Clara cared for Max like she was tending to her own memories. She documented every moment on her phone. Max is missing a jump, but smiling with his eyes. Max is hiding a pebble under the blanket, pretending not to know. Max curled in a sunbeam like a little loaf of soft, fur-covered bread. One early morning in late May, the sunlight was golden like honey. Clara sat cross-legged on the back porch, watching Max struggle with a new toy, a box with tiny holes hiding bits of food. He was much better. Though his head still tilted, though he still stumbled at times, he had learned to adapt to his own imperfections. He thought, tried, failed, and succeeded, like a child learning to speak through instinct. Clara smiled faintly, but then her gaze froze. A crow had landed on the railing. Its feathers shimmered blue-black in the morning sun. Its head tilted, eyes dark. The scene felt torn from an old memory, where blood, cries, and cruelty had surrounded a small creature caught in a steel trap. Clara held her breath. Max saw it too. He stopped playing, silent. Then he crouched low, body pressed to the ground, the ancient stalking posture of his kind. The crow didn't know. It was just doing what crows do, grooming, scratching, living by instinct. But in that moment, Clara no longer saw Max as a patient, no longer the pitiful creature she had saved. He was a bobcat, truly wild, even with a tilted head, even without the forest. He still held an untamable soul. The crow flew off, lightly, as if it had never been there. Max kept watching for a few minutes longer. His eyes were glowing like a newborn flame. Then he returned to the box, shook it hard, and knocked loose a treat. Clara felt a strange ache in her chest, a mix of pride and loss. She understood this was why she had to let Max go. Not because she couldn't keep him, but because he needed more than her porch and her love. He needed the chance to be fully himself, as far as possible. The sanctuary in Portland was as vast as a wind-sheltered valley, where creatures too broken for the wild could live the rest of their lives, not in cages, but in small forested realms built with compassion and understanding. Clara had prepared everything for that day as if sending a child off into the world. The transport crate lined with his old towel. The piece of blanket Max liked to bury his head into each morning. A notebook filled with slanted handwriting detailing feeding times, medications, his first seizure, his first time standing, and a handwritten letter to whoever would care for Max next. He likes pushing things into the corner of his enclosure, but doesn't like anyone moving them back, she wrote. And sometimes he'll tilt his head and listen to the crows, like he's remembering something far away. Jonah arrived early, bringing a mild sedative, just enough to keep Max calm for the long drive. When he saw Clara fastening the crate one last time, he asked softly, "Do you want me to take him? I know this isn't easy." Clara shook her head. "I need to see where he'll be. I need to know. He'll be okay." The road to the center wound through early summer forests, where new leaves burst and birds chirped as if the world had never known pain. As the car turned through the sanctuary gate, Clara glimpsed shadows moving behind soft wire fencing. A one-winged owl, a limping fox, and an old bobcat sprawled on a wooden ledge, eyes closed as if dreaming of the deep woods. Margaret, the center's director, hair silver like morning mist, greeted them with warm eyes. "We've prepared a special quarantine area for Max. Once he's adjusted, he'll join the ambassador zone, where we keep unreleasable animals to help educate the public about conservation." She pointed to a forest-like enclosure with vines, logs, sunlit rocks, and the true scent of woodland air. "There are 2 other bobcats here," Margaret said. "We'll introduce Max gradually. Strangely, many species that live alone in the wild find companionship in these healing spaces." The moment of parting came as softly as a falling leaf, but it weighed like stone in the heart. Max, drowsy from sedation, didn't resist as he was moved into his new space. Clara knelt, placing his favorite towel beside him, a piece of fabric, a familiar scent, a hint of memory. Just enough for him to know that somewhere there had been a home where he was saved and loved. "You're welcome anytime," Margaret said quietly. "Many rescuers become regular volunteers. And don't worry, Max won't forget you." That evening, returning to the cabin, Clara felt it too quiet, as if someone had drawn all the sound from the world. She cleaned the enclosure, washed the blanket, and carefully filed Max's records, like someone closing the final chapter of an old book. Jonah called, inviting her to dinner, but she declined. Tonight, she needed to be alone, to let her heart speak its last. She sat on the porch step, the day's last light breaking on the worn wooden floor. The forest wind swept through like a half-forgotten song. Somewhere, out in the distant woods, bobcats lived secret lives, strong, solitary, needing no witness. Max would never be one of them, but he was alive, protected, with a future, with a purpose, a story, all because one woman didn't walk away when she saw a small creature caught in a steel trap during a spring rain. A soft sound. Clara looked up. It was a crow, perched on the railing, head tilted, watching her with dark amber eyes. Not fierce, just curious. Maybe it was one of the crows from that day. Maybe not. But this time, it wasn't a symbol of danger. It was just a wild being, living by instincts passed down through generations. Clara looked at it and gave a gentle nod, as if in acceptance. Miracles, she realized, don't lie in disrupting the rhythms of nature, but in how something new, something meaningful, can be born from them. Max would teach children about forests, about instinct, about redemption, and to Clara, Max would forever be proof of the simplest truth. That compassion, when given at the right moment, can change a destiny.